Hello, we there? I think we're live here. What's going on, everybody? How's it going? I don't see the little timer going. Here we go. All right, I think we're good. So hope everyone's having a good first couple days of class. Everything's going well. I have heard back from everyone in terms of their topics for their first speeches, so that's good, and we're all set to go there. I don't know what's going there. And I hope you guys are working on that. Some questions about the speeches that I've gotten. I just wanted to talk about real quick. Preferably, I would like it if you're standing and you present this as a speech. Pretend that the camera is your audience, as though it was an audience sitting there. Speak into the camera, take it seriously, like a real speech, right? Don't start and stop and, like it's a thing. Obviously, if you start your speech and you start recording and it's not going well, and you stop it and you record a new one, whatever, just hand in, you're going to turn in your best one. So in that sense, it's a little different than a real speech where you would not have the chance to go back. But that's how I expect it to be, right? So a speech like that. If anyone else if you have any questions between now and then, let me know and we will work on that. So the speech is due by 9 o'clock. Oh, I'm just looking at the syllabus here. Give me a second. Why is this? This is annoying. Hold on. There we go. So the speech is due by 9 o'clock on, was it? I assume Tuesday, right? Should be Tuesday. Hold on. I just had this up. Sorry, it was on my computer and it just went away here. So your speech number 1 is due. This be any slower. On Monday, that's right. Monday at 9 o'clock. So tomorrow by 9 o'clock, your speech is due. I was getting confused. So tomorrow, 9 p.m., send me a link to YouTube with your speech. All right. Moving forward from there, I hope you guys are all reading, looking at the PowerPoints that are posted, the stuff for each day. I hope that you are reading your book. Obviously, each day, the chapter from your book. I hope you are going to the websites that are in the external links on that sheet that I had provided, and also looking at the video clip for each day that I have procured for you guys. All right, so I wanted to talk now a little bit about some of the chapters that you've been reading about. I think it's better, easier, and a lot of times to sometimes talk after you've read the chapters about the chapter, just like you would, in a typical face-to-face class where you'd read the chapter or show up. So we're going to do it that way. So chapter 2, right, was all about attitudes. And I think it's pretty clear that an attitude, right, is your affect or disposition towards an object, and that object can be anything, a person, a place, a thing, a feeling, and literally anything. And it's just your internal feeling towards it. Positive, negative, do you like it, do you not like it? That's it. So I have my phone. What is my attitude towards an iPhone? Positive. I like it. Now, the second that I expressed that attitude and I said I like it, it's now become an opinion. Okay? An opinion is some type of physical manifestation of an attitude. So in that sense, if you put up a bumper sticker supporting a presidential candidate, if you attend a basketball game at your school, that in a sense is an opinion because you're there. So that tells me you like it, you don't like it, you want to watch it. You're there because your friends are there. So you want to do relationship maintenance and whatever the case may be, there's a reason. You are manifesting a behavior. So a behavior in any sense really is an opinion in some sense. Now, your opinion doesn't always match your attitude, right? So I can have a positive feeling towards something, but not necessarily like it. I may like, a certain food or a certain thing. And if someone offers that to me, I may say no, because I'm not I don't want it at that moment, but I like it. But if I say, no, I'm okay, thank you, you would say, oh, he must not like that food. He must not like that thing. But that's not necessarily true, right? You may also hold an attitude towards something, but maybe the social circle you're in or the people you're around at a given time have a different opinion that's being expressed, and out of fear of isolation or any number of reasons, you would express an opinion that matches what the group feels. So in that case, your opinion wouldn't necessarily match your true attitude. Right? But oftentimes, attitudes and opinions are relatively linked. Attitudes tend to be pretty consistent, right? So they hold up over time. Now, of course, you can change your attitude towards things, and we do all the time. How you feel about something, how you feel about someone, the attitude changes, and that's a good thing. You should change your attitude towards something when presented with new, credible information that runs counter to your belief that um, you know leads you to question what you believe. That's okay. That's a good thing, right? So attitudes are typically influential on behaviors, but as we talk about in chapter 3, this link between attitudes and behaviors is not direct. It's not an always link. Just because I like something or don't like something doesn't mean I will behave every time in a certain way. I'll talk more about that, right? So the chapter then talks about some theories of attitude formation. So how you form these attitudes, right? Classical conditioning, right? So the Pavlovian response, where you've got unconditioned, conditioned responses. That's one, right? We have operant conditioning, where we're learning as a reinforcement and punishment, right? So you can either reinforce certain behaviors and repeating that over and over, someone can learn, or you can also punish or have no response towards other behaviors, and that would teach them, right? So, if you're training a dog or raising kids or whatever, you can try to, get upset at bad behavior. So in the hopes that they'll learn that that's not good. Excuse me. You could also just praise positive behavior with the thought that they will, the person or the dog or the animal or whatever it is that you're trying to teach or train will say, oh, I like this feeling. I like when they give me these things. I like doing this. So I'm going to keep acting that particular way, because when I do that, I get a positive response. So what's a more powerful form of, conditioning that attitude is obviously up for great debate. And you see that in all the different styles of, how people teach, parent, raise animals, anything, right? Is open for interpretation. Probably most people that are rational and have tried doing any one of those things would say that you probably need a little bit of both. I can tell you firsthand, that I always thought, when I first got my dog years ago, before I had, gotten a dog, raised a dog, I thought, I'll only positive reinforcement. I read all these books about positive reinforcement with dogs. I wasn't going to be negative and yell and scream. Certainly wasn't going to, use any type of physical, reprimanding of the dog or anything like that. It was only going to be positive. And if you, like I said, I read all these books about this positive reinforcement of animals and training them and whatever. And we got our puppy home. He's 8 weeks old. And I start doing all the things the book says, and he's not behaving at all the way that the book says he's supposed to behave. So they said, you want to teach him to, entertain himself by chewing on these things. And the way to do it is you put food inside, and they'll play for hours trying to forage into the toy and get this food. Well, no, that's not what Derby did. He would get bored in about 2 seconds and move on and start, destroying things. And he wasn't, eating the way they said he was going to eat. And he wasn't doing anything the way these books said. And no matter how positive you were towards, certain behaviors, he was still doing the bad things. So it's like, all right, well, obviously he needs a little tough love. And I may have to yell at him and put him in his crate and be, have some, show him when he's not doing things right, that there's negative consequences. And that combination of the two seem to get through. Same thing with, like I said, kids, adults, anything, right? If you're the boss right? If you're the boss somewhere, you need to be able to motivate your employees. You've got to get them to do what you ask them to do. But as we've seen time and again, what happens if you set a environment, a work environment, a team environment where the leader is just constantly getting on people for negative things and never reinforcing positive behaviors. So you only hear from the boss when you're doing something wrong. You never hear when you're doing something good. It really obviously affects in a negative way morale and people's willingness to want to work for you and things like that. So you really have to walk that balance of making sure people know when they're doing something right and doing something well, and also know when they're not, and saying that there's maybe consequences for that. So those are conditioning these attitudes. So attitudes serve lots of functions, right? They allow people to express their values. They allow people to protect their own sense of self, right? And yourself, this idea of self-identity. Your identity is who you are and who you see yourself as. If you're sitting there and answer this question, I say to you, person X, Y, and Z, I'm talking right now. You are, complete the sentence. I am blank. What's the first thing you say? Right? And for everyone, that'll be different. You ask me, who am I? I say, I am Stephen. Maybe that's the first thing I say. Or maybe the first thing I say is, I am a man. I am a father. I am a husband. I am a homeowner, whatever. I am, a golfer. All the things I do, that can describe who I am as a function of myself, as myself. And those things that you hold mostly to your core, and what makes you the most kind of you and the most your sense, what's most important, are the things you're probably going to say and think first. Right. And like I said, for everyone, that's completely different. But that's attitudes allow you to kind of defend that ego, that sense, right? And there's lots of other things that attitudes allow us to do. So attitudes are heavily related to, obviously, behaviors, the overt actions that we take, behavioral intentions, which is a step between attitudes and actual behavior. So a behavioral intention is someone's obvious, in so many words, my intent to do something. It's not me actually doing it, and it's not necessarily my attitude about an object, but it's like, yeah, I'm going to go, I can tell you right now, so it's 4:00 on Sunday. I have a behavioral intention to go to the supermarket tonight. My kids go to bed. I have my grocery list. I'm going to the supermarket. That's my intent, right? So behavioral intentions are very predictive of behaviors. Now, of course, things get in the way of that. Something I may not go. I haven't done it yet. My intention is to do it, right? And those are very related to attitudes. And then finally, the chapter talks about how we measure attitudes. And it was a lot really of survey responses, right? So different kinds of scales, asking people, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, or how much you agree to disagree with the following statements, or all different kinds of techniques for measuring attitudes. How do we know how someone feels about something? Really, the only way, in a sense, is to ask people, because how else do you measure an attitude? We could say you could do an experiment and give people options and see what they choose or pick, or ask people and this, that, and the other. Right. But then again, we said that behavior may not be indicative of the attitude. There could be any reason they act in that way, and it may not be indicative of what their actual attitude is, right? Now, on the other hand, you could say, if you ask me a question, I could also make something up, not be truthful for any number of reasons in a survey. And that's absolutely true as well. So you can do a survey. You can also do biological testing, right? So they talk about pupillary responses. So looking at people's pupils, you can do fMRI imaging, which is where you put electrodes on people's brains and show them stimulus, whatever, and see how the brain reacts. And you can't fight that. So they also talk about galvanic skin responses. So see how much someone sweats or whatever. You can't fake those things. So just a lot of different ways of trying to get at attitudes. And the best way really is to combine them. So if you really want to know someone's attitude, you would combine different ways of measuring. So that's the attitude, if you will. All right, so we talked a little bit about what's coming next, your speeches. We talked about attitudes. I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to make another one right now, moving on to the link between attitudes and behaviors, and talk a little bit about theory. All right.